or some kind of introduction to Sefer Shoftim. Okay, so we left Bnei Israel leaving Egypt. This is actually the parasha, right? Parashat Beshalach is קריעת ים סוף, זה יציאה ממצרים. And during Sefer Yehoshua, they enter Eretz Israel. הם נכנסים לתוך הארץ. And even though now in Sefer Shoftim they're already 400 years בארץ ישראל, they actually are, אפשר להשוות את זה לתהליך התבגרות של תינוק. We can compare the process of adolescence for עם ישראל just like a child when he grows up. Okay? זה ממש להשוות תהליך of a child growing up and going through adolescence, I forgot how adolescence. Just like עם ישראל is, כמו כן גם עם ישראל עובר תהליך של התבגרות, אוקיי? אז אמנם הם קיבלו את ארץ כנען, אמנם הם גרים שמה, אוקיי? They inherited ארץ ישראל, they live there, but they don't really know yet how to treat ארץ ישראל, how to be a society of agriculture. They don't know exactly what kind of crops in what kind of land, what kind of, how much water, הם לא מכירים, הם לא יודעים, צריך לגלות את כל הסודות של ארץ ישראל, איך להוציא ממנה את המיטב. Just like a child, as a child grows up, we get to know him better, and we try to help him develop all his different characteristics. We'll see in Sefer Shoftim that Am Yisrael is like on some kind of a loop. Okay, but it's a different loop. It's a loop of Am Yisrael sins, Am Yisrael chote, הם מקבלים עונש, they are punished, then they do tshuva, and then there's some kind of salvation. And this is what's going on and on and on again and again in Sefer Shoftim. אבל החטאים שלהם והתהליך שלהם, it's a process of escalating. Each time, even though they sin again and again, their sins are different. It's on a different level. So it's like a spiral, but it's going up and up and up and up. Okay, I think a few times we spoke about this spiral. So Am Yisrael is building itself. It's building just like the spiral, the different spiritual levels of Am Yisrael. And we know that just like a teenager, when he goes out and he wants to find his own identity and who he is and what he likes to do, and he tries to differ himself from his parents, as יש גם מחטאות, there are places that he misses out and he goes off the road, off the derech, and then he has to be called back to the derech. זה מאפיין, this is the characteristics of תהליך חיפוש, of a process of looking for myself, of finding out who I am. What my identity is. And sometimes we miss, אנחנו חוטאים, מחטאים את המטרה, okay? אבל זה התהליך, this is the תהליך that we're going to see in Sefer Shoftim. And very interesting that over here in Sefer Shoftim we can really see that when Am Yisrael is staying stable at the same stage, what happens? They get tired, they get confused, they do wrong actions, and then starts the process of תהליך תשובה. כלומר, in other words, when Am Yisrael stays put, okay, כשאנחנו לא זזים מהמקום שלנו בתחום הנוחות, בתחום המוכר והידוע, when we are in our comfort zone, usually that's when we start to get very tired and confused, and then we start doing wrong actions or wrong deeds, or that's when we start to sin. And then we see that when the punishment comes, זה מתניע את תהליך התשובה. That starts the process of תשובה, because we get a punishment, we call out to Hashem, okay, this is our תשובה, ואז מגיעה ישועה, and then we step to the next level. Okay? Okay. So maybe I'll just say one more thing, that ספר שופטים זה באמת ספר של הקשבה עמוקה. עם ישראל is listening, הקדוש ברוך הוא is listening to us, and הקדוש ברוך הוא can't take us from one step to the next step. זה לא תהליך של צמיחה וגדילה. It's something that we have to do for ourselves. הלוואי that we can take a pill at night and wake up in the morning the person that we want to be. אבל זה לא עובד ככה. הקדוש ברוך הוא can't do that for us. המקום אשר יבחר השם זה ארץ הגאולה, זה הארץ שאנחנו התאמצנו והתקדמנו ועשינו כל מה שאנחנו יכולים לטפס משלב לשלב. So this is what's going on in ספר שופטים. And now we're starting with פרק ד'. The הפטרה is doing with, starts off with פרק ד'. Yeah.
But I think it's also a nice message though, because, and especially that you compare it to, let's say, adolescent, that they do, like they make mistakes and they're growing, because it works both ways, because we have to work on our thing, but it also shows like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like a father or a parent that's forgiving. Now here we do it again, and we also have to, like, sometimes people do things and they make mistakes and there are things that happen and they're horrible and we have to get over it. And then from the other side, the person also has to tap into the, okay, now they're trying to do something better and they can, which gives us hope, because then we know that from ourselves, no matter how namok we are, we still can work on being better and not to give up hope, and you can change and do something better. So I think it's a beautiful message here.
נכון, it's actually learned from the pasuk, בנים אתם להשם. בנים אתם להשם. We're also, as a child, for הקדוש ברוך הוא, each individual and also as a nation. Thank you, Hindi. ממש יפה מה שאמרת. Thank you very much. Okay, so over here, I'm going to start off a little bit and then we're going to see what the difference is between Ashkenaz and Sfard. But we're going to meet an enemy over here, a different enemy that we didn't meet till today. Because till today, all the different enemies that Am Yisrael had were enemies that were on the other side of the border. Edom, Moab, different nations, different mamlachot, different kingdoms that are outside of Eretz Yisrael. Over here in the story of this Haftarah this week, it's an enemy that comes up within us from Chatzor. Chatzor is the north, in the north of Eretz Yisrael. זה לא מחוץ לגבולות, זה ממש בתוכנו, אוקיי? סיסרא זה שר הצבא שלו. סיסרא is the name of his army man, okay? And Chazal also want to tell us here another very interesting message, that the worst enemy of a person is what?
Himself.
Him himself. It sounds horrible, זה נשמע נוראי, איך יכול להיות? אבל האויב הגדול ביותר של האדם זה האדם עצמו. The biggest enemy is within me, is my יצר, we like to call it יצר הרע, חס וחלילה לא להגיד that it's me, אבל it's me. It's when I'm tired, when I am confused, when I'm not sure of where I'm going. That's when our enemy wakes up, just like Sisra, just like the king Yavin that we're going to read about. Okay? So I also think that that Chazal want to tell us, how do we overcome our inner enemies? Okay? איך אנחנו מתגברים על האויבים שמתוכנו. אבל דיברתי מספיק, ובואו נעבור ונראה מה קורה פה בהפטרה. So we'll see that our הפטרה has two parts, okay? The first part is the war between, we'll see, Am Yisrael, that Barak and Dvorah are leading, and Melech and Sisra, that works for Yavin. And the second part is Shira Dvorah. Very interesting that Nusach Ashkenaz, they read both parts. But Nusach Sfard, they only read the Shira. So first, let's try to understand what this Nusach Sfard want to tell us, and then we'll cross over and we'll see what we have to learn from Nusach Ashkenaz. Okay? So as we said, Nusach Sfard, they focus on the Shira Dvorah, and they want to emphasize the appropriate response when we have victory, when we were saved from our enemies. Okay, what is the appropriate appropriate response? A lot of times I like to compare it today to our children. When something good happens to you, what do? A lot of people they cooked a nice dish or something. What do? They take a picture of it ומעלים את זה לאינסטגרם, נכון? They call their friends, they talk about it in their different groups. So I don't know if there were cell phones in those days, if that's what they would be doing, אבל הנביא אומר לנו פה בצורה מאוד ברורה that the appropriate response to victory, לניצחון במלחמה, to being saved from your enemies, what is your first thing that you're supposed to do? Pick up your eyes to God ולהגיד שירת תודעה, to say thank you to הקדוש ברוך הוא. It should be in your instinct. It shouldn't be something that you have to think, what should I do? I want to tell my mother, I want to tell my friends. No, first I'll go to God. זה צריך להיות בטבעי, זה צריך להיות זרימה טבעית. דבר ראשון, להרים עיניים לשמיים ולהגיד תודה לקדוש ברוך הוא. אז I think that's what Nusach Sfard want to come and emphasize over here. And that's why it doesn't really matter what happened before, what kind of a story was before. And we see also, of course, the connection to the parasha over here, okay? When in this parasha in Bishalach, we have Kriyat Yam Suf and we have Shirat Miriam, okay? Shirat Hayam. זה התגובה הראשונית, זה באינסטינקט, עם ישראל, מרים שמובילה את זה, שירת תודעה לקדוש ברוך הוא. אוקיי, so that's נוסח ספרד, זה מסר מאוד יפה, מאוד אמיתי, מאוד נוגע לימינו אנו, נכון? It's not something like what do they want from us? Something that we can totally relate to and try to educate our children and grandchildren to always have gratitude to Hashem, to anything that happens to us, for the good and לא עלינו, גם for the bad. אשכנז, גם לוקחים את זה גם בשתי ידיים, אבל הם רוצים להוסיף לנו עוד קומה. Okay? Ashkenaz say it's very important to see what happened before. You know what happened before? Look, let's read what happened before. And this is when we're going to go back to the הפטרה. It's a very long הפטרה, so I tried to highlight באמת רק את מה שמאוד מאוד רלוונטי לנו. So we're going to start on the first page, okay? The first yellow highlighted פסוקים. ויצעקו בני ישראל אל השם, כי 900 רכב ברזל לו, we're talking about סיסרא, והוא לחץ את בני ישראל בחוזקה 20 שנה. So first of all, we can understand את התמונת רקע פה, okay, the introduction to what's going on over here is that עם ישראל are suffering very much. ויצעקו בני ישראל אל השם. Does it remind you of the שיעבוד מצרים? זה ממש אותם מילים. More than that, וילחצו את בני ישראל. We read that every year in the Agada about the מצרים שלחצו את בני ישראל. Okay, there's a very big הקבלה, parallel between שיעבוד מצרים and שיעבוד to מלך יבין. Okay, and they are suffering very much. They are having a very hard life. And lo and behold, we don't see anything that's happening within Am Yisrael. And more than that, רגע, ברח לי ההפטרה. More than that, let's look at the next psukim. Okay, the next psukim from Pasuk Vav, what I highlighted. We have Dvorah Neviah. She's called Eshet Lapidot because she was married maybe to a man that was called Lapidot, or because she made ptilot for the Bet HaMikdash. זה לא משנה כרגע, but Dvorah היא הנביאה. It's very interesting that Chazal talk a lot about this whole thing about Dvorah, that a woman is the Nevi'ah, that a woman she's not exactly the leadership, but soon we'll see that she's taking responsibility and she's trying to be a leader. She's trying to build a leadership. מה המצב של עם ישראל עד כדי כך that a woman has to step forward? Where are all the men? במובן הכי סטריאוטיפי שיכול להיות. כאילו לא יותר מתאים שאיזה גבר יבוא ויהיה גבר ויקח אחריות. A man should step forward and take responsibility and say something horrible is going on here for 20 years already, let's do something. זה מתאים for a man to stand up and protect the woman and protect עם ישראל. There's no leadership here. Nothing is happening. No one is waking up. אף אחד לא עושה איזשהו צעד להושיע את עצמו. More than that, let's read together the פסוקים. What happens? Okay? ותשלח, we're talking about דבורה, ותקרא לברק בן אבינועם. ברק, he's the שר צבא, he's the army person. Okay? מקדש נפתלי, ותאמר אליו, הלא ציווה אדוני אלוהי ישראל לך ומשכת בהר תבור, ולקחת עמך 20,000 איש מבני נפתלי ומבני זבולון, ומשכת אליך אל נחל קישון את סיסרא שר צבא יבין ואת רכבו ואת המונו, ונתתיהו בידך. ויאמר אליה ברק, אם תלכי עמי והלכתי, ואם לא תלכי עמי, לא אלך. אתם קולטות מה הולך פה? דבורה, she's a woman, she's not in the army, she's a נביאה, okay? And she is trying to recruit Barak to build some kind of a leadership, to build some kind of a הנהגה צבאית, an army leadership, to fight Sisra, because we can't go on living like this, being slaves for Sisra, for Melech Yavin, and Chatzor. And she tells him exactly what to do, but he's afraid. He's supposed to be like a bait. Soon we'll describe exactly the war that went on. He's supposed to be like a bait. אבל הוא לא רוצה. He's hesitant. He says, if you come with me, then I'll go with you. And then Dvorah says, fine, I'll go with you. And I want to say a few words about the battle that they had over there, and we'll understand. I want you to think about the parallels to Kriyat Yam Suf. So what happens is, the next yellow psukim that I highlighted are psukim that are describing the whole milchama, אבל אני רק אגיד את זה בכמה מילים, כי אני רוצה להגיע לרעיון של הדבר הזה. And what happens is that Barak tries to recruit Bnei Israel, Am Israel, that are living in Israel, to come to war. מלחמת מצווה, there's someone that wants to kill us now. אנחנו במלחמת הישרדות. הישרדות, we're in a survival now, a survival mode. Everyone should come. But we see that only 2 or 3 shvatim come. Most of Am Israel doesn't leave. They don't come to battle. Especially Reuven, Gad, וחצי המנשה that are over in Jordan. They don't come. And Barak is able to recruit, I think they say 10,000 people, it says, okay? And they all, הם כולם מתאספים בהר כרמל. אתם זוכרות שקראנו על הר כרמל בהפטרה שבוע שעבר? אז הר כרמל מופיע עוד פעם, and this is the place where Barak gathers 10,000 people. And of course you realize that Barak and 10,000 people, and they don't really have ammunition. And who's on the other side? We have Sisra עם 900 מרכבות ברזל. Okay, מזכירים את זה כמה פעמים. 900 מרכבות ברזל, if you can just think of these big iron wagons that make so much noise and clattering, and the חיילים that they have, and it says, וכל העם איתו. Okay, וכל העם איתו. How can you compare 10,000 soldiers maybe with, maybe they have a sword? Okay, how can you compare that to Sisra with all the big this ammunition that they have, and agalot barzel, v'susim, and the horses, and the merkavot? So Sisra hears that Barak is rounding up his people, and he comes. He's coming towards Barak, and Barak is coming down Har Tavor. And I forgot to say something very important, sorry, that when Barak was standing there in Har Tavor, do you know what he saw? He saw the clouds, the many, many clouds, very heavy, rainy clouds that are coming his way. And what happens is that it starts to pour. It starts to pour, and Barak is coming down Har Tavor, he's coming down the mountain with his 10,000 soldiers. And Sisra is coming towards him with his 900 מרכבות ברזל וסוסים וכל העם איתו. And Nachal Kishon, that's right, למרגלות, at the bottom of Nachal Tavor, of Har Tavor, starts to overflow. אוקיי? מתחיל שם שיטפון רציני. And what happens, the 900 מרכבות ברזל וכל העם and all this water and dirt and boats and נחל קישון that's overflowing, do you know what happens? It all becomes into dirt and like a ביצה. How do you say ביצה באנגלית? שכחתי.
It's muddy. It's mud hole.
A what?
Mud hole?
I don't think a mud hole is the right word.
I think the real word is bog.
Swamp, נכון. It becomes a swamp. Anything that steps inside just gets swallowed up inside. So, היתרון של סיסרא, כל 900 מרכבות ברזל, his יתרון, הפך לחיסרון, נכון? Now everything is, so what happens to the soldiers? They step off their מרכבות ברזל, and they start running away, but they all drown in נחל קישון because it's overflowing. It's a big flood. So everyone is on foot. A lot of the חיילים of סיסרא drown, just like what happened in קריית ים סוף, נכון? אוקיי? וגם שם היה מרכבות ברזל של פרעה. And everyone is on foot running off. And סיסרא is running towards עם ישראל, towards the tent of יעל אשת הקיני. Okay, there's one family, משפחת קיני, that they are neutral. They're not on Sisra's side, and they're not on עם Israel's side, even though they're from inside עם ישראל, okay? הם היו חלק מעם ישראל. אבל הם בחרו לשבת על הגדר, הם לא נוקטים עמדה. עוד מעט נדבר על זה. Okay, so he runs into Yael. I just wanted to say that he relies on Yael, that she's on his side. And then she tucks him in bed and she asks him, what would you like to drink before you go to sleep? And he says, bring me some water. And she brings him some milk and he falls asleep. And she takes the peg from her tent and she kills him with the peg. Okay? וזה כרגע מה שחשוב לנו להגיד. Okay, so that's the story of basically what happened there. And Chazal asked, why was it so important to bring this part of the הפטרה? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. And when we're asking, what is the mode of Am Yisrael? What are they up to? We know that they're suffering. We know that they don't have a leadership. And we know that they're being very not initiative. הם לא יוזמים שום דבר לעזור לעצמם. יש כאן איזושהי השלמה עם המציאות שהיא בלתי נסבלת. They're being very passive. Just like עם ישראל in מצרים, they were very passive. They didn't do anything for themselves. They weren't able to do anything for themselves. Moshe is trying to pull them out of Egypt. And you remember, חמושים עלו ממצרים, only 20% of עם ישראל wanted to leave Egypt. So the גאולה, the redemption, was only from הקדוש ברוך Hu's side in Egypt, okay? Over here, it's a little bit different. Over here, even though the people, the nation are very passive, Dvorah is trying to wake them up that now that they're in Israel, it's a different הנהגה. זה לא יכול להיות הנהגה ניסית that הקדוש ברוך הוא is going to do everything for you. You have to act for yourself. You have to do anything you can to survive, to save yourselves. Okay? And we see that a few of the Shvatim came to the war and הקדוש ברוך הוא helped and they won the war. אבל זה חייב, דבורה הנביאה מנסה לעורר את עם ישראל לפעול למען עצמם, אוקיי? לא להישאר באדישות, don't stay in your comfort zone, don't be so apathy and indifferent to your גורל, to your destiny, okay? You have to act for it. It's always easier to stay in your comfort zone. אבל דבורה מנסה לעורר אותם, to wake them up and to take them out of that comfort zone. Then we have the different shvatim. Dvorah and Barak are trying to recruit the shvatim to come to war. And we see that the nation, the עם ישראל, הוא בעצם מתחלק לשני חלקים. They're two different parts, okay? So there's the first part that we'll see in שירת דבורה that she says a few times, המתנדבים בעם השם יברכם. Okay, המתנדבים, whoever is volunteering, Hashem is going to bless him. And we have the other part of Am Yisrael, lo aleinu, that they are struggling to not go to war. הם מתלבטים, הם מתחמקים, הם לא משתפים פעולה. Okay, they prefer to stay home, to stay put, and not go to war. And Dvorah Neviah gets very angry at them. Maybe let's go to the בהפטרה, בשירת דבורה, you'll see that in red, I just highlighted a little bit of Dvorah's anger at Shevet Reuven, for instance. Okay, you see the red letterings? ראובן גדולים חככי לב, למה ישבת בין המשפתיים לשמוע שריקות הדרים, לפלגות ראובן גדולים חקרי לב, גלעד בעבר הירדן שכן ודן, למה יגור, אוניות אשר ישב לחוף ימים ועל מפרציו ישכון. She's telling them off. She's telling them, why didn't you come to war? You're sitting, you're just looking after your own boats, you're sitting בשפתיים סגורות, like you're closing your lips, אתם לא משתפים פעולה, you're not coming to help. She's very, very angry at them, and she's letting them have it in her שירת דבורה. And on the other hand, she's also blessing the Shvatim that volunteered and are endangering their lives in order to fight for Am Yisrael. And there's a problem over here, okay? Why is Dvorah so angry at the different Shvatim that are not volunteering to come to war? יש לנו פה כמה בעיות. מה אתם אומרות? מה הבעיה בזה שהשבטים לא באו? What would you say?
Well, when Moshe brought Bnei Israel into the land, one of the, and distributed the land among the tribes, one of the conditions was that everybody come and join if there was a fight.
Why?
Because we're one people.
We're one nation. אנחנו עם אחד. מה המסר? What are you saying when you're not coming? אנחנו לא מלוכדים. You don't feel like we're all one people, that we're all one nation. How can it be? How can it be that Am Yisrael is not, as you said, like אדם אחד, גוף אחד ונשמה אחת? מה עוד הסכנה? What else is problematic with Am Yisrael that with the Shvatim, that didn't come forward to help in the war, to help in the battle?
It's lack of emunah. It's like lack of belief also. It's like they're so lost and so like assimilated or part of everything else that either it's that, like, you know, when they were in Mitzrayim and they felt like they didn't have the energy anymore and that they couldn't do it. So it's lack of emunah and bitachon that Hashem is going to help them through this. Or it's that we're so lost and wrapped up in the avodah zarah and whatever else it is that they're doing that they can't pull away and then come together and be part of who Bnei Israel are. So it's like being separated from it.
נכון מאוד. It's even extremer than what June said before, that we're so separated, we got lost, we lost our emunah on the way. נכון מאוד. מה עוד? Maybe they're not going to win the battle because of it. נכון? Maybe they're only 10,000 people, לעומת סיסרא ו-900 מרכבות ברזל וכל העם איתו. יש פה סכנה, there's a danger that we're not going to win the battle, that we're going to lose it.
And then what will be their punishment? There might be punishment involved for them. By the king.
Maybe, אבל זה כרגע לא מטריד את דבורה. דבורה is saying, how can you not care? How can you not be responsible for your brothers, for עם ישראל? איך לא אכפת לכם? איך אתם אדישים? How can you be apathic לגורל, for the fate of your siblings? זה לא בסדר. More than that, when you're not coming to join the battle and help Am Yisrael, you are forcing HaKadosh Baruch Hu to fight over here, to fight the battle. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu joins in, then it has to be with miracles. And we're done with that phase. we're done with that phase. It's not miracles anymore. Okay, it's not Hashem yilachem lachem v'atem tachrishun. That was in Egypt many years ago. That was Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now you're in Eretz Israel. You have to work for yourself. You have to להיות שותפים. התערות דלתתא. It has to wake up from the bottom. Okay? כלומר, יש פה בעיה בכל הרבדים. Also, the way you're treating your siblings, you're not being melukadим, you're not one people, you're not one nation. Where is your emunah? Where is your responsibility for your brothers? Where is the word that you gave us when we entered Eretz Israel and you went לעבר הירדן? הבטחתם שתבואו. מה קרה למילה שלכם? Okay, אז יש פה דבורה is really very angry at them, and she doesn't she doesn't want them to get used to being in their comfort zone, just sitting, fussing around and doing whatever, or not trying to do more than what you can. If you look at number 2 on your Daf Mekorot, all the way at the end, I think, you'll see that there's a little citata there from Yalkut Shimoni. רבי זעירא ורבי ירמיהו בשם רב, שירת הים ושירת דבורה, נכתבים אריח על גבי לבנה ולבנה על גבי אריח. This citata comes to tell us that there's a lot משותף in the comparison between שירת הים and שירת דבורה. Okay, there were different shirot in the Torah and the Nevi'im. What's so special about what happened over here? So we can learn a whole shiur only about the parallels between Kriyat Yam Suf and this battle with Sisra and Barak. Okay, but if we just look a little bit at the Ketuvim, what it says in Shirat Dvorah, we can see שיש הרבה מאוד מקבילות, ואני רק אתייחס אליהם בקצרה, רק כדי להשלים את התמונה. So if you see in the battle, it says ויהמם, okay? ויהמם, הקדוש ברוך הוא הימם את המחנה של סיסרא. What pasuk is it?
Tetvav.
Tetvav, thank you. Okay? So in Kriyat Yam Suf, we see the same thing. Okay, what does it mean over there בקריאת ים סוף? בקריאת ים סוף, חז"ל say שעמוד האש ועמוד הענן גורמים למהומה במחנה של פרעה. אוקיי? זה גורם להם להתבלבל, זה גורם להם להיות, it confuses them and it just turns everything upside down in מחנה פרעה. Just like over here, what turned upside down the whole battle? The pouring rain.
All right.
Right? The pouring rain just turned everything upside down. זה ויהמם. We have another one. We have רכבי ברזל של סיסרא, נכון? And we have the מרכבות של פרעה. We have Sisra and his מרכבות that are, it even says, let me see, I'm not gonna go each time back to the Ketuvim, because then it's going to take me forever to remember which pasuk it was, but it even says over here in our הפטרה that everyone drowned ולא נותר אף אחד. Just like it says in קריאת ים סוף, פרעה וחילו טבעו בים, לא נותר אף אחד. זה ממש אותם מילים, תשימו לב. Okay, they both drowned, also in יציאת מצרים בקריאת ים סוף, וגם פה, even the same words, ולא נותר אף אחד. I'm probably saying it wrong, אבל the word אחד definitely appears over there.
לא נשאר עד אחד כתוב.
לא נשאר עד אחד. Thank you, Sarah. Another parallel is the מלחמה שמימית ועל טבעית במצרים ובכנען. We saw that in יציאת מצרים, we know that הקדוש ברוך הוא ילחם לכם ואתם תחרישון. And over here in שירת דבורה, in שירת דבורה, here the yellow highlighted after the red, מן השמיים נלחמו הכוכבים עם סילותם, נלחמו עם סיסרא. Okay? What does it mean, מן השמיים נלחמו הכוכבים עם סילותם? It sounds like מלחמת הכוכבים, like Star Wars, but it's really referring to מהשמיים. They felt that the whole battle was led from the shamayim, things that, דרך אגב, זה הגדרה של נס. נס is something natural that happens, Okay, like we spoke about קריעת ים סוף עם גאות ושפל, but it happened, the minute that it happened, exactly when Paro came, that the water came back, that was the ness, the timing of it. When it rains and pours, that's not a miracle, but what is the miracle? That it happened exactly at the time when Barak was coming down from Har Tavor, and Sisera was coming with his 900 merkavot barzel, and they all and it fled and they drowned. Anes u ba'itui, in the timing. So Dvorah writes here, משמיים, רגע, מן השמיים נלחמו הכוכבים ממסילותם. Okay? And then you see over here, נחל קישון גרפם, והלמו עקבי סוס מדערות דורות אביריו, זה ממש תיאור של משהו שהוא דומה לקריאת ים סוף. And then of course, הדבר הנוסף שמקביל לקריאת ים סוף ולמלחמה פה, is right after the battle, right after the big miracles that happened, עם ישראל פוצחים בשירה, and they were both led by women. Right? מרים לקחה את התוף, ואז ישיר משה ובני ישראל את השירה, השירה להשם כי גאוגה. מיד, ממש מיד, עם ישראל פוצחים בשירה, בלידרשיפ של מרים הנביאה, ואותו דבר פה, דבורה מובילה את השירה, שירת ההודעה לקדוש ברוך הוא על הניצחון במלחמה. אוקיי? אז זה ככה כמה נקודות על הדומה בין קריאת ים סוף והמלחמה של סיסרא עם ברק ודבורה. אוקיי, עכשיו, we don't have a lot of time, we have a lot of things to say, so נראה מה נצליח להכניס. So we saw the הפטרה that started out with המצב עם ישראל, דבורה is trying to recruit Barak, he's a bit hesitant, you have to come with me, she comes with him, then we see the battle, we see Sisera that's running away, and the last picture of the Haftarah is the picture of Yael, and this comes to emphasize, we can see Barak that was hesitant, שהוא לא רצה לקחת, he didn't want to take responsibility, he didn't want to initiate anything, okay, if Dvorah goes, I'll go with her, okay, I'll do her a favor, okay, even though he's an army man. וממש בניגוד, as an opposition to Barak and his story, we see Yael. Yael is a peasant, she's a civilian, she's innocent, she's not part of anything. She's only a part of a family, of a problematic family. אבל תכף נדבר על המשפחה שלה. אבל התמונה השלישית הזאת, like this little third story inside this הפטרה, ממש בא להדגיש לנו את ההבדל בין היחידים. אוקיי? יעל, she chooses to stand and act למול אתגרי התקופה, the challenges of the era. Okay? She's one girl, she's one lady, but she understands that she can do something that could change the history. She can be, אני אגיד את זה בעברית, כי האנגלית שלי הורגת את זה, אחרי זה נתרגם לאנגלית. היא מבינה את היכולת שלה בתור היחיד להשפיע, לשנות ולהפוך את הכיוון פה, להיות דוגמה לכל העם ישראל, לא רק לנשים, לא רק לאורך ההיסטוריה, אלא כאן ועכשיו היא יכולה להשפיע ולעשות. Here and now, יעל can make a change. יעל can make a difference for the history of עם ישראל. And she's actually היא מנצלת, she's taking advantage of her family. And this is the time to say a few words about the people, about her family, that doesn't want to take a side, okay? When everything is very neutral, אז זה לא בעיה to stay neutral. But when two sides are fighting each other, and each side feels that the other side is doing atrocities,
okay?
Okay? כשכל צד גורם עוול לצד השני, וזה דברים מאוד חמורים, you can't sit and say, I'm neutral, I can go along with you and I can go along with you. זה לא יכול להיות. אני חושבת שאחת הדוגמאות המאוד טובות שלנו, a very good example is the שואה. Switzerland sat aside and said, I'm neutral. זה לא יכול להיות. Terrible things are going on. אתה לא יכול להגיד, אני ניטרלי, אני לא רוצה לשפוט, A lot of times we hear people saying, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to, אני לא רוצה להיות שיפוטית. I don't want to be judgmental. אבל התורה אומרת לנו, you have to be judgmental. You can't set aside and say, I'm neutral. אין כזה דבר. אולי אתה צריך להתערב ולהיות בעין טובה. Sometimes you have to see something that's going on and say, I have to put a stop to that. It takes a lot of courage for me. זה לא נעים להתערב ולהגיד, אתה לא בסדר, אתה בסדר, זה דורש מאיתנו. I remember once I was standing outside and talking to this guy, and all of a sudden this woman was yelling at her son and she started to hit him. And the first instinct was, run and go do something. And then I said to myself, who am I? Should I go? Should I not go? And בעודי מתלבטת עם עצמי, while I'm still thinking with myself, what should I do and how should I do? The guy next to me, he just marched over and he did it so nicely. It was ממש, זה היה שיעור בשבילי. He put his hand on the lady's shoulder, on her son's shoulder, and he says, let's try to figure this out nicely. וזהו. ופתאום הכל התיישר והכל נגמר. And I felt so bad with myself that I didn't intervene before. But I told myself that this was a lesson for me, how to do it. If it happens to me again, I'm going to know how to do it. Because I didn't know what to do. What am I going to go over to the lady and say, why are you hitting him? כאילו, לא ידעתי איך לסדר את זה לעצמי בתוך הראש. This was many years ago. והרגשתי שזה היה שיעור בשבילי. ממש, this is how to do it. To be together with both of them, and let's see how we do this nicely. אז זה אחד המסרים המאוד מאוד חזקים שאשכנז גם כן מתמקדים בו. They're giving us the whole story, כי יש פה הרבה מה ללמוד. How to initiate for yourself, how to initiate for the other, how not to stay in your comfort zone, okay? How to understand that over here in Eretz Israel, you have to take part. נכון, זה דורש הרבה אומץ והרבה להתגבר, to overcome and to, you're going to have your anxieties, אבל אתה תצליח להתמודד if you have the right אמונה.
I think, can I say, it's, I think, about taking achrayut for the am. If you're part of something, you have to have individual achrayut for it.
נכון. It's not only you. It's not only me living in my home very comfortable, ומה אני אעשה לאנשים אחרים.
And I think that when that goes away, that's the beginning of the downfall of a society or of a nation.
נכון. נכון מאוד. מאוד נכון. So Yael takes her, so that's why I wanted to explain, that's why Sisra הרגיש שהוא יכול לבטוח ביעל, because he knew that she belongs to a family that is not against and not for, שהיא כוח ניטרלי. אז הוא באום, היא באום, אז הוא הרגיש שהוא יכול לבוא ולהיות שם, and he could find מחסה over there. So that's why he can come into the tent and find there and feel secured in her tent, okay? Little did he know that Yael is different from her family, and she feels that she can actually act and do something to change the history of her nation. רציתי להגיד עוד משהו, אבל ברח לי מהראש. Okay. So I wanted to let's look a minute at the Shira Dvorah. At the blue. You see that I highlighted it in blue? So over here, of course, Dvorah is מהללת ומשבחת את יעל, תבורך מנשים, יעל אשת חבר הקינים, מנשים באוהל תבורך. And she's telling the story, מים שאל, חלב נתנה וכולי. But let's look at בהמשך, בעד החלון, בעד החלון נשקפה, ותייבב אם סיסרה. Dvorah is taking us here to another picture. The picture of who? The mother of the army man of Sisra. Okay? She's standing by the window in her mansion. Yael was in a tent. She's in a mansion. She's surrounded with her different lady slaves. Yael is all on her own. Yael is very בטוחה בעצמה, and Sisra's mom is crying, ותייבב אם סיסרא בעד האשנב. Why is she crying? מדוע בושש רכבו לבוא? Why isn't my son coming home from the battle? מדוע איחרו פעמי מרכבותיו? Why can't I hear את המרכבות ברזל כבר מתגלגלים? חכמות שרותיה, her women slaves, I guess they're trying to לנחם אותה ולהרגיע אותה with some kind of wisdom. תעננה אפי תשיב אמריה לה. What do they say? איך הן גורמות, how are they trying to cause Sisra's mother not to worry, לנחם אותה? Listen to the words, it's horrible. הלא ימצאו יחלקו שלל רחם רחמתיים לראש גבר, שלל צבעים לסיסרא, שלל צבעים רקמה, צבע רקמתיים לצווארי שלל. Don't worry, they're raping, they're enjoying themselves, they're looting, they're taking a lot of anything that they can put their hands on. They're ransacking the מחנה. They're very busy, don't worry. ככה הן מנסות לעודד ולנחם את אם סיסרא. I think it's such a horrible הנגדה, כאילו זה דבר שלא יתפס. How can a mother take comfort in such a terrible thing that her son is doing right now? And who is the one that ends it? Who is the one that causes the son not to come home? The lady that was supposed to be raped. The lady that was supposed to be looted. כאילו העם עצמו, האישה עצמה היא זאת שנעמדה וגורמת קץ לדבר הזה. And I think over here, one of the things, I think the main theme that Dvorah wants to tell us in her שירה, מעבר ללהלל ולשבח את מי שהתנדב ותרם, you can see that a few times it says, יבורכו התורמים והמתנדבים, אבל יעל גם רוצה להגיד לנו, it's not only a תיאור היסטורי of what happens, אלא א', להדגיש ולשבח את ההתנדבות והמסירות נפש, שאנחנו צריכים לפעול בשביל עצמנו, וגם ליחיד, גם לאישה יחידה שגרה באוהל קטן, that lives in a little tent, she can change history, she can make a difference. And we meet that along the Tanakh in many places, and we meet that in our history. If you just look at any manhig that we had, look at Menachem Begin, look at any Moshe Rabbeinu, kol echad, he was an individual that put his foot down and said, I'm not going to keep my mouth closed anymore. I want to do something for Am Yisrael. And of course, we have the inyan of the appropriate response for ניצחון של עם ישראל במלחמה, וזה להרים עיניים לשמיים, ולהגיד תודה לקדוש ברוך הוא. I want to say a few more words. We have 7 more minutes about, I said before, the Navi wants to teach us or give us instruments or tipping how to challenge, איך להתמודד when we have a challenge within us, when we have a sisra, when we have an enemy that wakes up within us, okay? So if we go back to the war zone, okay, let me see if I'm going to find the psukim, when Sisra is standing בראש ההר, בוא נראה אם דבורה כותבת על זה פה. טוב, let's go back to the פרק. I like it when the psukim where Barak is standing ממש בראש ההר. One second. Okay, here. It's in the second yellow psukim that I highlighted. ותשלח ותקרא לברק, okay? לך ומשכת בהר תבור ולקחת עמך 10,000 איש מבני נפתלי. And then he says, I'll come with you if you come with me. One second. Okay, here it is, sorry. In Pasuk Yud. it's also highlighted. ויזעק ברק את זבולון ואת נפתלי קדשה, ויעל ברגליו 10,000 איש בתא לימוד דבורה. Okay? I highlighted this pasuk, it says, ויעל ברגליו. Okay? This of course, זה הדבר הכי אימוני שאפשר לדבר עליו. תכף נגיד עליו, but just because you're really looking at the הפטרה, let's look also at the פסוק י"ב, ויגידו לסיסרא, כי עלה ברק בן אבינועם הר תבור. Okay? He's up there, he's standing on the mountain. And then דבורה tells her, ותאמר דבורה אל ברק, קום, she has to wake him up to לקום, כי זה היום אשר נתן השם את סיסרא בידך. Okay? טוב, if we can go on reading in the פסוקים, there's כל כך הרבה אוצרות בתוך הפסוקים, אבל אני רוצה להגיד את הדבר הבא, ויעל ברגליו. Of course he's gonna, ויעל ברגליו, how else is he gonna go up the mountain, with, on his hands, on his head, כאילו איך עוד הוא יעלה? אבל הרגליים שלנו, א', in the word רגל, we have the word הרגל, habit, okay? And we say about habits, either they could be the best of servants, or they can be the worst of the lords. Okay? הרגל טוב הוא כמו עבד נאמן, משרת טוב, and הרגל רע זה הרע שבאדונים. So a person, בעצם the Navi wants to tell us that when you want to overcome anxiety, when you want to overcome your enemy within you, ויעל ברגליו. You have to understand that you're going to have to work hard, okay? לטפס על ההר הזה. צריך לטפס על ההר, you're going to have to climb. If anybody here does workouts, there's a תרגיל that's called the mountain climber. When you have to stand on the floor, okay, with your hands and your feet, and then you have to do as if you're climbing with your feet, but like jumping. It's the hardest thing ever. מי שרוצה לנסות, you should drink a lot of water before. The mountain climber, גם בספורט וגם בחיים האמיתיים, זה הפעולה שהיא מאוד מאוד קשה. You have to overcome yourself again and again. Every step that you take, ויעל ברגליו, you have to overcome habits, bad habits. You have to learn new good habits. ממש צריך להתגבר בכל צד. And then when you get there to the top of the mountain, one of the psukim say that Barak saw that he was looking at the sky and he saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming. And when seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu coming, when he sees all the Ananei Geshem, the clouds of the rain that are approaching, and then they open up and they start להוריד את כל הגשמים to bring down the rain, הנביא אומר לנו, חז"ל מדברים על זה, שזה החיבור בין שמיים וארץ. Rain starts up there and it comes down here, okay? And this is the connection. כלומר, when you want to overcome your enemy, you have to understand that it's work, but what is the work? To feel the connection between the sky, between שמיים וארץ, between הקדוש ברוך הוא and you. שהקדוש ברוך הוא מחובר אלייך, he's always connected. If you are willing to feel the connection, then that is the way to overcome your inner enemies. להרגיש את החיבור הפנימי לקדוש ברוך הוא. Because a lot of times we are in dark eras and we say, where am I going to find? מאין יבוא עזרי? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how things are going to happen. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא רוצה את האמונה שלנו, את הפתיחות שלנו, that we should feel that the skies are opening in order to connect to us. But you have to be in the mode of looking for the connection, of yearning the connection. And this is the way to come your over the enemy, this is your inner enemy, להתגבר על הפחד שלך, על כל הנזקים שאתה עושה לעצמך.
Shira?
Oh,
wait, no, you could go first.
Oh, I just want to say perhaps the name Yael actually hints at that.
Why?
Yael.
ויעל ברגליו. It's very interesting what you're saying. I never thought of that because Yael is always related to the animal. And they say that the nekeva of Yael is really called Yaela. So when you're naming your daughter Yael, you're naming her after the Zachar. You should really name her Yaela. אבל ויעל ברגליו, זה מאוד מעניין. Thank you, John. Hindi?
Shira?
Yeah.
So I think that even more with connecting the Haftorah to the Parsha, and then we talk about Miriam and we talk about here Devorah and Yael. If you go even further back, like when you think of Miriam, even like when she started, when it talks about Shifra and Pua, and that she was like against like overcoming Paro there, that initially starts with being able to show how you fight against such a big, you know, enemy like that.
Beautiful.
So it starts there.
Thank you very much. It started over there. It's also one individual or two individuals. Miriam was one individual, and Shifra and Pua were two other individuals that they weren't willing to להסתגל למציאות הזאת. They weren't willing to be neutral. It's very easy to be neutral, כביכול. לא מתערבת, I'm not interfering, whatever. It's a mission to be a Jewish person. זה לא קל. זה לא קל. יש פה הרבה דרישות מהבן אדם. You have to להתאמץ בשביל עצמך. You have to do it. You have to do it. Excuse me?
I said it starts with one person, but then becomes like this, you know, domino effect, and everyone comes in and joins in.
נכון, because you know, Chazal tell us when a person wants to change the world, where does he start? By changing himself. זה בדיוק זה. When you change yourself, וכל אחד בפני עצמו ייקח אחריות, אנחנו נהיה במקום אחר לגמרי. טוב, thank you very much, שנזכה ונצליח להיות בכל הדברים האלה שחז"ל מצפים מאיתנו. העיקר המאמץ.
Thank you.
טוב, שבוע טוב. Stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.